Morning, edpsych students, or I guess it's good afternoon. I'm not sure what time it is you're watching this. This is our video session for Wednesday, the 23rd. We did not have class on Monday, so this will be the first one for this week. Let me open us up in prayer. Father, thank you for everyone who is watching this video. I pray for everyone in our class, Lord, wherever they might be, whether they're in high school, whether they're on campus at Houghton, whether they're off campus. Just ask that you would give them peace, you would give them health, or that you give them the time they need and just the diligence for all the different things you have them doing in their lives, including this class and the topics we're talking about. I just pray for clarity today, and that if there are any questions or technical issues, we'd be able to get those figured out. In your name, amen. All right, guys, so today we are going to review for the test, and we're going to talk about application assignment number 2. The discussion post for today is going to be a 3-question test review that you guys make up, and that will count as your discussion post. That'll count for the full points. You don't need to reply to anyone's today. You're just making up some questions that you think might be on the test. So starting us off today, a couple of little memes. These relate to our application assignment number 2. So the first one, there are 180,000 articles about my topic, but I don't know which one to read. And then the second one, you mean to tell me that Google doesn't have all the best answers? So application assignment number 2 has to do with you reading journal articles, not books, not book reviews, not websites, but journal articles from scholarly journals, and doing a little summary kind of assignment on them. We're going to do it in 2 parts, so I'll explain it to you guys. We'll go kind of slowly with it. So starting us off, we have our next test on Monday. It'll be test number 2. As all tests, it counts as 10% of the overall grade. It covers the subjects from the 2nd of October up to the 25th, which was last Friday. There'll be 26 questions, about 26 overall, mostly multiple choice. There is 1 extra credit this time, and there is 1 short answer this time. Okay. Basically, in general, what you need to know is the psychologists we've talked about, the theory that goes with them, and how it relates to education. And within that, there's other things, so we're going to go through those as well. So for instance, Bandura, who was, I believe, last week's social learning theory. And social learning theory talks about how students learn from each other. They learn from watching. They learn from modeling. There's a connection between what we see and how we learn. Not always, and certain things help it. Model prestige helps it. Repetition helps it. Practice helps it. Working in social groups helps it. So Dewey and the inquiry model of learning, which really does or has led to constructivism and constructivist thought, mainly social or cognitive constructivist thought today in education. We don't really get into radical constructivism where nothing is real. But the idea from Dewey that students need to be actively involved in learning. They need to be doing. They need to be straining, trying to make sense of things, and going back to Piaget, even putting the new knowledge they've learned into schema, into baskets, into ways of understanding that they already have, connecting it to previous knowledge. We talked a little bit about the 5E model of lesson planning, where you engage, you explore, you let the students explore, you explain, you do some direct instruction. So something about Dewey there. And then Pavlov, classical conditioning. Remember, we talked about Pavlov, we talked about Skinner. Pavlov had researched classical conditioning with dogs, and we'll go over more of this stuff too. And then Skinner with operant conditioning, where students are encouraged to make choices instead of just being classically conditioned, where they respond involuntarily. So this is the study guide. The study guide's in Moodle. It's the same as this slide. I think it's this slide and then one more section. People ideas for the test review. So here are all the scientists, the psychologists rather, that we talked about this in this section, and on behavior and learning, starting with Aristotle, Pavlov, Thorndike, Skinner, Wertheimer, and Wundt. Miller, Kahneman, Dewey, and Bandura. There were some others, but these are the ones that really stood out the most to me and the ones that I'll be asking you about on the test. So what I'd like to do is see if we can put them together with what they said. So obviously we're not synchronous here. We can't ask for answers in the video, but I'll let you guys look at this for a minute and let you maybe try and pick out what would go first. So what would line up across from Aristotle? Then you talk about social learning, classical conditioning, inquiry learning, contiguous learning, memory, operant conditioning, Gestalt principles, systems of thinking, or trial and error learning. Okay, so we'll just go through these and we'll kind of match them up. So Aristotle, thousands of years, a couple thousands of years, well, 3,000 years, 4,000 years before Pavlov, really talked about contiguous learning. He said that we tend to remember things that are similar, different, or connected in some way. And the example I gave for that was the United States, states that are connected, the 48 contiguous United States, and then Hawaii and Alaska are not connected, not touching other states. So things that we make connections with. Aristotle realized those connections help us remember and help us to learn. Pavlov talked about classical conditioning, involuntary, right? Remember his dog, and when he would ring the bell, the dog would start to salivate. That was not what Pavlov first studied, but it was what grew out of his studies. And really, we use that in education with things that we just need students to respond to. And in a lot of ways, that is for behavior management. Things like Red Robin Yum, clap, 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 when we practice fire drills and the students are expected to walk out quietly in a straight line. So things that we need them to listen and we need them to do what we're saying because there's something important going on. We don't want to overuse that in education. If we could brainwash students, we could overuse our authority and our position to do something like that. But really, we want students to not be just classically conditioned. We want them to choose, right? Thorndike was someone who Woolfolk did not talk a lot about, but Yount did. And Thorndike really talked about trial and error learning. Memory's up there too. I'm not sure why Miller memory just went also. Trial and error learning where students need practice, they need repetition. They also need to not be forced to do something when they're not ready. By the same token, if they are ready, they need the chance to do it. So the way that we call on people in class, the way that we determine who's going to answer the question, it can either frustrate students or it can bring a sense of accomplishment to students if they are ready and they're able to answer the question. Skinner was much more involved with operant conditioning, voluntarily making ways for students to voluntarily to choose what they are going to do, to choose to respond, to choose to behave, to choose to do the work. Skinner's work dealt with both pigeons and rats, but mostly we talked about the rats in his Skinner box, where he would put a mouse or a rat inside of his box, and he would either let it run around until it bumped the lever and got food, and then it eventually learned to bump the lever whenever it wanted food, or it would run around on a shock little grating, and when it bumped the lever, the shock would turn off, and then eventually it learned to bump the lever if it was getting shocked, and the shock would be taken away. But those are choices, right? Choices that the animal was making. In the same way, we can encourage students to make choices. And there was a list of different ways we can help students make choices. Shaping was one, breaking things down to steps, offering do this first, then that. That's called the Premack principle. Replacing bad actions with good actions. So if they come in and they're really loud walking in the room, we have them go outside and walk back in to practice doing it the right way. So we'll talk more about that, at least in some more of our review. Wertheimer and Wundt had several different things, and they didn't necessarily work together, but their studies went together. And the one that I think is most important really for education is the Gestalt principle, the idea that we strive as humans, our brains try to make sense of the whole of what we're seeing. We try to create structure. And that leads into different things in education, whether we're teaching the big ideas, whether we are the big ideas is the most one that comes to my mind, with things like why are we doing this, or what's the reason for this? How does it fit into everything we're learning? Optical illusions is another way that this comes into play, although we don't teach optical illusions. But when we show optical illusions, our mind tries to make sense. Miller had to do with memory, and Miller had a famous number, if you guys remember. It was 7. Miller's magic number was 7. His research said that we can hold about 7 numbers, 7 items, 7 things in our minds, in our short-term memory. More than 7, we tend to forget. Kahneman talked about systems of thinking, and Kahneman's systems were System 1 thinking, System 2. System 1 was quick, fast, instinctive, where we tend to make decisions based on heuristics, ways of understanding, ways of looking at something that help us to intuitively jump to what we think is the right answer. Oftentimes we get the right answer through system one thinking, but system two thinking is slower. It tends to be more collaborative, talking to other people. It tends to take more time, but it also tends to arrive at a higher percentage of correct answers. So the challenge in education, I think, is that students tend to do system one thinking much more than they'll do system two thinking. And so especially with younger children, to get them to slow down, reason things out. We did talk about claim, evidence, and reasoning, claim, evidence, and justification. Those are some assignments that are really getting to the forefront in science, in English, where students are asked to write down a claim, present their evidence, and then explain the reasoning why that evidence supports that claim. We have Dewey, who was inquiry learning leading to constructivism. Students should be actively involved in learning. They shouldn't just be passive recipients. So the teacher should not just be sitting up on the stage lecturing. The students should be actively involved in learning and exploring and making their own roads to knowledge or pathways to knowledge. And then Bandura. Bandura really had to do with social learning, the Bow-Dahl experiment, where he and his colleagues discovered that if students, or if children rather, watch someone else hitting a doll and then they're frustrated later on, they will be more likely to hit the doll later too. And they did other experiments. They looked at, does it matter if it's on a video or in real life? Does it matter if it's which it didn't, does it matter if it's a girl watching a woman or a girl watching a man or a boy watching a woman or a boy watching a man? And yes, it does. If you're watching the same gender, it tends to have more of an impact. Does it matter if the person you're watching who's doing the hitting of the doll, if they get berated, if they get scolded for hitting the doll, or if they get praised for hitting the doll? In most cases, that didn't really matter a whole lot. So all those different things, connecting those dots, knowing something about each one of them. Okay, and the study guide is in Moodle, along with these terms to know. So chunking, breaking things up into recognizable chunks, contiguous, connection, demographics. Demographics has to do with a description of an individual based on their race, their gender, their religion. It could be sexual preference. It could be their socioeconomic status. That's what we call demographics. Explicit memory, memories we have to work to remember, things, information we have to consciously think about. Flashbulb memories, memories that are just ingrained in our subconscious. They're usually very emotional. They have a connection to us. We remember where we are when something happened. The Gestalt is a German word that simply means like the totality or the whole picture. Implicit memory are things that we don't have to work to remember. If I said 867, some of you might think 5309 because that was part of a song way back in, I don't know when, the 80s or something. But that's something that implicitly songs we tend to remember. Inquiry learning has to do with active learning, okay, in opposition to passive learning like a lecture. Involuntary, no choice. Metacognition, learning about learning or thinking about thinking. Has to do with deep learning, has to do with coherent learning, where there's no discrepancies, there's no battle between different realms of knowledge in the student's mind. Modeling, where they watch someone else do something, and then the now it's slipping my mind. The idea that model prestige, that if we respect the person we're watching, we're much more likely to listen, to pay attention, and to try and do what they're asking us to or what they're showing us. Negative does not mean bad. Negative means, hopefully some of you are saying, taking away. Like positive does not necessarily mean good. Positive simply means adding something to the situation. Operant is a decision, a choice, a thought, a behavioral unit, basically, that's going on in the mind of the person. Premack principle is that we have the students do this, then that. So I know you want to eat ice cream, but let's finish your homework first, then you can eat ice cream, right? We have them do the hard thing first before the fun thing that's less important. Punishment does not necessarily mean something bad. A punishment simply means trying to get whatever the behavior is suppressed, right? Trying to get the student to stop the behavior. So you can have a negative punishment, you can have a positive punishment. The punishment is the intent of whatever's going on. So you can add something to stop a behavior, you can take something away to stop a behavior. Reinforcement is trying to encourage a behavior. So positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is taking something away to encourage a behavior. Positive is adding something to encourage the behavior. And then finally, shaping, which simply I'm not sure why we have all these different words. Shaping simply means breaking things into steps, right? Instead of showing, telling them all the different things they have to do an assignment, we say, okay, well, first do this, now do this, now do this. Here are the steps to doing this more complicated task. Okay, so make sure you understand what these terms mean. We're going to, or you're going to rather, make up some review questions. And here are some examples. Which of the following is not a type of human memory? Implicit, random access, or flash bulb? Hopefully you know that that is random access. That's a computer's memory, RAM. The psychologist who studied learning by having children watch adults punch a Bobo doll was Albert Bandura. And then true or false, breaking assignments down into smaller steps to help students is known as shaping. We just talked about that. That is true. Okay, so these are the type of questions that I'm going to ask you guys to make up. And so if you go to Moodle, you'll see a link that says 3-question quiz submission. That will take you to this document. And what you're going to do is find your initials on the side, and in the space, you are going to come up with 3 questions that you think could be on Monday's test. If you end up coming up with someone else's questions, that's fine. Duplicates are okay. I've already made the test, so unless I see a question in here that's just amazing, that just makes me stand up and go woo, I won't change the test. Whoop, let me go back. But this is a great way to review. Having students, when you become teachers, having students make up questions. This is metacognition. This is thinking about thinking about learning. They can be multiple choice, short answer, true, false, matching, fill in, whatever you want. I just ask that you indicate the answer in some way. It's really up to you. You could change the color of the answer. You could bold the answer, change the font, whatever. So here's my example. What's my favorite color? Green. My quest is to seek the Holy Grail. True or false? True. What's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Do you mean an African or European swallow? I don't know. If you've ever watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail, that's the bridge scene. Okay, so do that, and then this will count as your discussion post for today. You do not need to reply to anyone's, but I do encourage you to look through everyone's on here. In general, the questions you come up with are 95% of the questions I already have on the test. Okay, so a great way to study. Ideas to review, study for the test, make a bubble diagram with main ideas, make up 2 to 3 questions for each idea person. You're doing some of them right now, you could do it for all of them. Make flashcards, make a Kahoot, make a quizzes to study. Go back through the presentations. The dates are wrong. I'm sorry, I thought I fixed them. The dates are 10/2 to 10/25. With a partner, one of the best ways, guys, seriously, is to review or quiz each other with a partner from class. Review the reading guides, or do them if you haven't done them. Go through the class-created quiz in Moodle, so that link to this in Moodle, look at that, see if you know the answers. And then on Friday, we have a review game. It's from a website called Genially, and you're welcome to do that early. You can do it as many times as you want. It's not quite as content-heavy, but it's another way of doing a gamification review. Okay. So please let me know through email if you have any questions prepping for Monday's test. If anything doesn't make sense or anything you're not sure of, just email me. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Let me think. We're doing it the same way. It'll open up at 8 o'clock in the morning, close at midnight, and you have one chance to do it. If you score below an 86, you get to redo it. There are still... If you notice the jump cut, there was a motorcycle outside of my room. There are still people who can retake test 1. If you score below an 86%, you may retake test 1 to get up to an 86%. Okay, application assignment 2, and we won't spend too long on this. We're already 20 minutes into the class, but this will be fairly quick. For this assignment, you are making an annotated bibliography. You will be annotating 3 articles. There's 2 submissions. The first one is an early submission just showing me what you're doing so I know that what you're doing is right. I'll give you some feedback on it, and then you can make any changes you need. And then you're going to add the second submission, which is 2 more articles and a search statement and a summary paragraph. Okay, so basically an annotated bibliography is where you have the article citation properly formatted, and then you have a paragraph where you're going to give me some information, and there's specific information that I want you to put in there. So we'll go through it step by step. Part A, which is due Wednesday the 30th, which would be next Wednesday if you are watching this through. And I'll think about that. I might update this. I want to try and stay to this date. If you are not able to get to this assignment until late next week or this week, let me know. I think you'll be able to get it done. If you can't, then email me and talk to me about a possible extension, because I know some people are doing the videos later in the week. My intent is to give you a full week to work on it. You get 30 points for turning in your first part of this, which is just one annotation. Part B is the two extra annotations. It says 2 to 3. Sorry, it says numbers 2 and 3. One sentence about your search terms. We'll talk about that, and then the summary paragraph, and that is all due Friday. All of it together on the 8th of November. Each annotation should follow APA 7 citation, and then there are 6 requirements listed on the assignment page, and I will go through those with you. So here's an example of one annotation. Okay, yours does not have to be as long. This one has a few extra sentences in it, but you can have it this long. The top part is the citation with the author's names, the year, the title of the article, the name of the journal, the volume of the journal, the issue of the journal, the page numbers of the journal, and then the link to find the journal. So we'll go through each of these, and then this is an example rather of answering writing up the annotation, which is basically the summary of the study, and there's specific things to put in. So first part of this, find one article from a peer-reviewed journal. So not from a book, not a book review, not from a website, but a scholarly journal, and I'll show you how to tell if it's a journal, on one of our main concepts so far and the age group or subject you plan to teach. So if you think you're going to teach elementary, you could search elementary and one of the things we've talked about so far. If you're going to teach high school science, you could look up high school and one of the things we're going to do. So you could look up science and one of the subjects we've covered so far. Or you could do high school science. You could do university science. You could do elementary science. So there's different ways to look up the articles. Okay. Main concepts so far. Here are the theories we've talked about so far. There may be others that I have neglected to put in, but this is the majority of them. Cognitive development, identity development, morality, operant conditioning, behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, social learning, memory, and metacognition. Others could go in there as well. Behavior is something we haven't really, we've talked about behavior. We're going to talk about motivation next. Motivation is another one that you could use, although we have not yet gone over it. So pick one theory or idea. Okay, it doesn't have to be specifically this wording. You could change it around. Sometimes in changing the wording around, you find other articles with different titles that has the wording slightly different. So you find an article, create an annotation for the article. Okay, include an appropriate citation and a paragraph summarizing the main points of the article in color. And I'm going to show you the 6 colors I want you to use and how it should be laid out. Partly this is a technology component that I want to know that you can highlight a sentence and change the color in Word or in Google Docs or whatever you're working in. So back to our example example annotation. Here is our citation. It's an APA 7. EasyBib, another one is called CiteFast. I think EasyBib might charge money. I don't know, but CiteFast does not. You can click the link here to go right to it. In fact, I'll do it really quickly for you. The title is A Basic Model of Integration of ICT. So if I go to CiteFast and I tell it it's a journal, I look up a basic model of integration of ICT, go, and let's see what it finds here. Basic model of integration of ICT by teachers, competencies, and there we go. This is it right here. So I would click it. It lets me change information if I need to, but if I just scroll to the bottom, here's my citation. Okay, it's not always perfect. This one happens to be perfect. Okay, this has everything it needs. It's all done correctly. And I want to show you back on let me go back here without stopping sharing. There we go. Back on this slide, let me get out and then go back. So on this slide, the first part of it is the author's name. So there are how many authors in this article? 1, 2, 3, 4. Suarez-Rodriguez is 1. Almeric, Orellana, and Diaz-Garcia. The first name is always just one letter. Okay, you don't put the word "and," you put an ampersand, that little "and" sign. If there's only 2 people, well, actually, if there's only 2 people, I think you still put an ampersand. The year goes in parentheses and has a period on the outside of the parentheses. You don't put the month, you don't put the date, you just put the year. Then the title of the article in sentence case. So in this example, a basic model of integration. A is capitalized at the start of a sentence. These are not capitalized. ICT is an acronym by teachers, colon, and then this would be considered almost like a new sentence, so competence is capitalized. If this had a person's name, like a study of Michael Jordan, then the M and the J would be capitalized because that's a personal name. So if it's a personal name, USA, United States, then you capitalize it. Otherwise, you only capitalize the first word of the sentence or right after a colon. The title of the journal, Education, Technology, Research, and Development, is the name of the journal. It is italicized and it is all capitalized. The volume is 66. The issue number is 3. So if we go to volume 66, it's the third issue of that volume. But the 3 is in parentheses and not italicized. The page numbers should be listed out. And then where you can find it. Now, this one has a DOI. DOI is Digital Object Identifier. I believe that's what it stands for. And this is a number that comes after the .org/. So if we look that up, we will find a reference to this article. If you don't have the DOI, if it's something else, that's okay. The DOI is considered a better way to do it, but you can have just a regular link. Okay. Here are the 6 things I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me their methodology. Was it quantitative, which means with numbers and statistics? Was it qualitative, where they interviewed people? Was it a mixed study where they did both? Sometimes it's hard to tell because it doesn't always say in the part of the article I'll have you look at. But if you're not sure, you can email me and I can help you figure that out. Then I want you to tell me the purpose. What was the purpose of this study? They sought to build a model connecting blah, 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 blah. Okay. The population, who did they study? So how many people, where were they, what country were they in? If they went to a certain school, what was the school, what level of schooling was it? In this case, it's 1,095 primary, secondary, and higher education teachers in eastern Spain, and they'll usually tell you that. The next part is data collection, how they collect their data. They had participants fill out questionnaires from previous studies. Fine. Maybe they interviewed. Maybe they sent out a survey online. Maybe they collected data from the government, okay, from taxes or something. Then you're going to say in black the results. The authors found. What did they find? What were their main findings? This can be 1 sentence. This can be 2 sentences. In my case, it's 3. But you can decide how much information you want to give us there. And then finally, why? Why is this important? Why do you think it's interesting? So these findings are interesting as they point out the need to help teachers become more familiar with ICT. ICT is information and communication technology, using tech, more likely to assign ICT for student learning. So you got the theory so far. Annotation main points, the research methodology, it's generally quant, qual, or mixed. Okay. The purpose or goal of the study, the participants, how they collected the data, summarize their findings, why do you think it's important or interesting. The annotation should be about a half page, in length, 1 paragraph, single spaced, 5-6 sentences, Times New Roman, 12-point font, all the normal stuff. It doesn't have to be double spaced, single space is fine, but I do want the sentences in color. Okay. So, and we'll go over this again on Friday, and I will be available to discuss, especially as some of you come in for advising meetings. Part A is submitting on Moodle to get feedback on your citation and annotation format. You get 30 points just for submitting something. It's due a week from Wednesday, if you're watching this today, on the 30th by midnight. Okay, and again, it's in there. It says 3:15. Sorry, that's wrong. It should say 10:30. And if you do have any questions, email me, ask me, get some help. Okay. I want to show you how to find the information and where to look. So most of the annotation main points that you're going to put in your paragraph, you can find in what's called the abstract of the journal article. The abstract is the first big blocky paragraph before they really get into their study that basically explains all of this. So in general, you can get all the information without reading the whole study. So ways to find it. You can go to the Houghton Library search site. I was going to have a librarian come and show you this, but I think it's pretty simple. They have it set up very nicely. If you scroll to the bottom of the Houghton main page, click on library right there, and I believe this is a live link. If you click it, it'll take you to the library. Let's do that really quickly. It's thinking. And it's still, there it goes. Okay. So when you get here, you don't want to search everything. You only want to find journals. So click on the little link that says journals, type in what you're searching for. So maybe you want to look for elementary school and what did we have? Moral development. And we say search. and we see if we find any articles. Okay, we're specifically just looking for journal articles. It found it found nothing. Okay, let's go to libraries worldwide. There we go. Uh, so this is from it says magazine journal worldwide character emphasis in education for elementary and high school students. So that might work. We have one here. It's another. It looks like it's the same one. Great ideas today. E-journal. Okay, that's okay. Educational research bulletins. Journal magazine. I'm looking for one that's more of a specific scholarly journal. So I'm not seeing a lot in here. You could click this though and see what it has. Again, you don't necessarily need the entire thing. You really just need the abstract. And I'm looking to see here what we have. Item details, mark record, instruction, bibliographies. Okay, so it looks like we can't access it here. If you can't find specifically what you're looking for here, let me go back to, all right, give me 1 second here. Let me go back to here. Then another way to look is on Google Scholar. So in this one, I looked up motivation in higher education students. You type in Google Scholar. It's not just a general Google search. It's a search of scholarly journals. So this one came up with individual differences in the effects of academic motivation, blah, blah, blah. Gives me the authors. Notice it says European Journal of Higher Education. So I know that's a journal. Okay. If you find it on the library website, it'll tell you if it's a journal as well. But in this case, Google Scholar, it'll say if it's a journal. Okay. So look for that. When you click it, when you see it, when you get access to it, this page actually has a little link that says read this article. However, on this page, it asks me to pay money to read the article. Don't do that. Don't pay money to read the articles. In most cases, you can get everything you need just from the abstract. You can get all the citation information just from looking at the top of this page. It has the title, it has the authors, it has the pages. In fact, it has a link that says cite this article. It would probably give you the citation if you clicked that link. It has the web link. It has the name of the journal. It has the volume, the issue number. It has the page numbers right down there underneath Marcus Rump, one of the authors. So you can generally get everything you need from there. So let me show you how to do that very quickly. Okay, so here's the abstract. And if this is all you can see, it's really all you need. So we need to know the research methodology, the purpose, the participants, the data collection, the findings, and why is it interesting. So just highlighting these, the effects of it investigated individual differences in the effects of academic motivation based on self-determination theory, which we'll talk about later, particularly blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's the purpose of it. It was looking at motivation, intention to drop out of college. In red, I notice the participants, 1,002 first semester bachelor students from 9 different German higher education institutions. So basically, if you're a first-year student at Houghton, they were studying people just like you. So, you know, the people that were 18, 19, maybe 20 years old, maybe 17 years old, but that's who they were studying. Let's see, we have how they studied, the research methodology. This does not specifically say in the abstract this was quantitative, this was qualitative. It does say cluster-wise linear regression analysis. That's statistics. That is a quantitative study involving numerical data. Okay, qualitative study would say that they interviewed a group of people and then had a focus group discussion. So if they're recording words, that's qualitative. If they are looking at statistical, mathematical, numerical analysis, that's going to be quant. We have the results. I won't read through them, but there's the results that are discussed in the abstract. And then we have how they collected data. They analyzed with the person-oriented approach. Do I understand what that means? Not really, but that's what they did. How they analyze it, how they collect their data. In this case, data collection isn't mentioned, but data analysis is, so that would be okay. All right? And then if I was building this, might be my paragraph. Notice that you can put things together. You don't have to have a separate sentence for each one. This study used a cluster-wise regression analysis to study the effects of academic motivation based on self-determination theory. So I left out a bunch of information, but that's okay. I put in the main parts, and I did use their own words. You do not have to put quotations around this. You are simply using the language that they reported it in, and it is not viewed as plagiarism. They used a person-oriented approach to analyze data from over 1,000 first-semester bachelor students from 9 German universities. They found that, and you can rephrase in your own words. It's a good idea to rephrase to show that you understand it. Some of this will probably be not understandable, and that's okay. If you can explain what you understand, that's fine. And then finally, the study is interesting because why you think it's interesting. All of that can be usually found in the abstract without even reading the entire article. Okay, you're welcome to go into the articles. You're welcome to search the articles when you get a full article. If you want a full article and you don't get it, don't spend money. Go find a different article. There are thousands of them out there. So the 3 test questions that you made up earlier on the paper are going to count for your discussion today. It shouldn't say reflection, it should say discussion. For Friday, we will review again. For Monday, you have test 2, opens at 8, closes at midnight. You guys did a great job last time making sure you took the test on Monday. Start looking for an article. Part A is due a week from today. Start looking for an article. Let me know if you're having trouble. You just need one article for the first submission. Okay? All right, well, let me know if you do have any questions about either the test or application assignment number 2. Guys, so far I think you're doing excellent in this course. It's, again, the first time that I've taught it asynchronously, and I think that from what I'm seeing, you guys are getting the ideas, you're getting the concepts. The discussions seem to be going pretty well, and on the test in general, you guys are doing excellent, and on the reading guide. So I have no complaints, no issues. Let me know if you do have any issues or anything you think could be going better, and I will see you later on. Have a nice rest of your day.